Hello and good evening to those of you who are joining us here. I'm Candice Foy. I am coming to you from Australia, and I have two beautiful guests with me tonight, Janine Burns and Andrea Wright, who are coming to us from New Zealand, which is really an exciting thing. So welcome, you guys. So I have the honor of interviewing Janine again. So this is going to be part two. And part of that is because I felt that there was so much more that we wanted to be able to say that was about activation. There was a history that Janine kind of experienced growing up that she didn't really delve into, because the purpose of our last interview was really around a dramatic change she'd had, given that she had introduced activated collagen into her repertoire of what she was doing. And so this is really where we're wanting to unpack for you a bit more of the backstory of how was Janine's health growing up, how was it before activation, and fortunately she actually had the privilege of meeting Andrea about 9 years ago, and as a health practitioner, and we're going to introduce Andrea in a minute. And so it's just going to be really a journey to understand how were things before, how were things clinically before, how are things clinically different now. So we're going to jump right in. And Janine, if you could just share with me really, some of those struggles you were saying you had growing up, like you had a lot of illnesses and stuff. So if you could just elaborate that a little bit for us, that'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm actually the youngest child of 6, and there's only 10 years between me and the eldest. And there's only 11 months between me and the next one up. And right from a very early age, I got sick. So I had meningitis as a baby. And I don't ever remember being well. So the list of illnesses would go from German measles, glandular fever, whooping cough, adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, shingles. That's going into adulthood. And, just every childhood illness going. So they'd call me one of those poorly sickly kids. My nickname was Bones because I was so skinny and so tiny. The doctors would be trying to put weight on me all the time. I was just constantly ill and sick. As a result of that, as I grew up, I was always looking for ways to get myself well and be as well as I possibly could. So any new supplement on the market, any new therapist, I would be in there trying. I am a trier. And so as part of that, when I came to New Zealand, I went looking for an acupuncturist because I know that acupuncture is a really good therapy. And that's where I met Andrea, who you're just about to introduce. So I'm going to hand that back over to you.
Excellent. So Andrea, you maybe it's easiest if you just introduce yourself. So what you practice as, and how long you've been practicing, and when you met Janine, what was she like when she presented to you? She's so bubbly and happy now. It's hard to imagine she was different. So it's important for you to get to paint that picture for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an acupuncturist, a traditional Chinese medicine acupuncturist. And prior to that, I was actually a sports massage therapist. So I was lucky enough to study here in New Zealand under a wonderful college that really, really prepped us for leaving the nest of college. And oh gosh, how long have I been doing it? 14 years maybe. And really, when Janine phoned me initially, she was very much a desperate person, lacking energy, lacking motivation, lacking any real will to enjoy life, I suppose you might say. And so when she first came, as part of Chinese medicine, we often take pulse diagnosis into account, and among many other things. And I do remember trying to take Janine's pulse, which was when you feel the pulse at the wrist. And I really had to stop talking and sit very quietly and block out every other noise and sight and everything just to feel her pulse, because she was so depleted, really. And given her history, like she said, she was the youngest of 6 children. She'd had a lifetime of being very, very ill. And it was really shown in her pulses and in her demeanor and her energy levels and her really lack of will to exist, which sounds terrible, but that's how she was. And I treated her for 9 years now, so I've got a fairly good picture of how she responds to acupuncture, and it certainly is something that has kept her going. But yeah, we progressed, but not at a rate that I was overly happy with. And so she was constantly looking for, something else and trying different diets to see if she'd feel better, and different supplements. And then obviously at some point about 5 years into the journey, she came to the Nrf2, which was a bit of a game changer.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, and I think it's so interesting to understand that, nothing is a quick fix. And so really the fact that, you persevered with her as a patient for 5 years, she was trying various things. So when Nrf2 activation came on the scene, how, radical that looked for you as a practitioner. How did she then suddenly start to present
so
to us?
it wasn't an instant change. Obviously there were years to repair, basically. The first thing I noticed was, I think we were going into winter maybe when she started taking this product, and previously wintertime Janine was often cancelling or often warning me that she was going to be turning up with a bit of a cough or a sniff, and did I mind? And it was pre-COVID time, so it wasn't a problem at all. And yeah, her immune system was certainly not the strongest. It was probably maybe 6 months into it where I suddenly, we sort of had a bit of reflection time, and I sort of went, well, actually you've been really well this winter, and it's probably the first winter where you haven't had to cancel or come in coughing and sniffing, and just really simple things. It wasn't like she was getting really, really ill, but just lacking an immune system. So yeah, that was probably the first sign that things were changing for her. And then as it progressed, prior to taking the Nrf2, one of Janine's very, very common, almost weekly, if not fortnightly, comments when she walked in the door was, and it sticks in my head because it was awful, it was, my get up and go has got up and gone, and I just don't want to be here anymore, which is really quite really quite heartbreaking when you hear a patient say that on such a regular basis. And what happened over time was that I'd sort of just noticed she wasn't saying this anymore. Her outlook was more positive, her pulse started increasing, and I've been treating her for 5 years, and we had some changes in the pulse, but they wouldn't hold for too long between treatments, or it would take a little cough or a cold to knock her back down. But there were ups and downs along the way, but the general trend was very much upwards in her health and her well-being, and just in general, really.
And how was the mental health side of things at that point, as she was physically kind of showing signs of improvement? Was there also a shift in that?
Absolutely, yeah. So she basically started saying that less, and that got to a point where, oh goodness, you haven't said that for maybe 3 or 4 months, which was, well, quite mind-blowing at the time, after 5 years of it, really. And so that to me kind of showed that there was a bit of, there was something to this stuff, this Nrf2 stuff that she was taking. To be able to change how you're feeling and physically and mentally, emotionally strengthen you, it's a bit of a winner, really.
Yeah, amazing. And yeah, understanding the physiology of that, understanding that it's activating the cellular pathways in our bodies. It's activating the DNA to do what it
Yeah.
was meant to do all along, but it was
Mhm.
actually gone dormant. So this was activating it to wake up. So it's interesting to see the clinical signs that were coming out for you as a clinician
Yeah.
to actually understand this is
Yeah.
actually really happening behind the scenes in ways that, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and it's easy for the patient to forget, but it wasn't easy for me to forget because I saw it every week and note it down and things like that. So it was a very distinctive change.
Amazing, amazing. Such a gift,
Mhm.
Janine.
Mm.
And what, I mean, if you can explain, how are you feeling through that?
Well, one of the things I wanted to explain was that actually when I went on it, so it's actually 4 years Monday that I started, I was actually going through the worst time of my entire life. I was actually in the middle of a really rough divorce. And Andrea knew me before the divorce as well. So, and whilst Andrea was noticing changes on the 6-month mark, I'd say it probably took 10 months for me to notice changes. But I was also going through the worst time of my entire life. And prior to that, I remember when I hit about the age 40, I remember just going through this permanent anxiety all the time of sadness. And I'm not a depressed person. I'm not someone who suffers from depression, but I had this overwhelming feeling that I wanted to cry for no reason whatsoever. And I didn't want to be here. And I was just waiting for life to be over. I remember it. And then when my divorce hit, I sat at a table with every tablet under the sun in front of me. And the only thing that stopped me was fear of failure. And I cannot even remember what it felt like to be happy and want to live and have that joy of looking forward to life again. And I never thought I would. And to a degree, it's some form of PTSD that I went through with my divorce, but the anxiety before it, the unexplained anxiety before it, and all that's gone. It's gone. And I can't, and I know I'm a bit emotional about this because hearing Andrea talk has been a bit of a for me. And I know what it's like when people say to me, I don't want to be here. I just have this unexplained sadness or whatever. I've experienced it and I know what that's like, and it's awful. And to say that I've got rid of it, it's gone. And that was from when the Nrf2 started, without a doubt. And that's the side of it that Andrea has also seen, so I'm a very, very, very different person now, and I never thought that would happen. So
Amazing, amazing. I just, yeah, and I've only known you for the last few years. And so when you were sharing this with me, that's why I went, I think we need a part two, because I need to understand the clinical side of before, so that it's even more apparent as to why this is such a radical shift for you, right? Like, so often it's happening at the cellular level. So it's not like you are taking something, you instantly feel, you have a cup of coffee and you're awake. It's not like that. And so it's taken a while for your body to get to that state. It's going to take a while for it to come out of that state. And so, from that 10-month point, it just hasn't gone backwards. Like you were saying, it just kept improving and improving and improving. And so what does your life look like now? Like, how often do you connect with Andrea? What do you do in your free time? Like, you just smile all the time whenever, like, you have the best smile. So it's obvious there's a true joy and a health. You're just glowing with health now. So yeah.
Well,
So what is that like?
So I do still see Andrea every week because of all the physical problems that my body has. And I'm a highly sensitive empath. And, there are little dips and troughs that she helps me with that but the idea is to nip things in the bud now. And, I ride my horse, I ride my motorbike, I dance. I've just started swimming again after 15 years of stopping. Today I was hiking up, it's called the Pipeline here in Christchurch in New Zealand, and it's like that. and it's walking poles and you just trudge up it, and and I dance lots and lots and lots. So I'm really enjoying living life to the fullest. 57 last year and last week, sorry, 57 last week, and I'm just doing as much as I possibly can while I can. Definitely.
Amazing, amazing. And I think that just gives so many people so much hope that today is not how the story needs to end, right? We actually have a choice to choose hope and to choose a different path that we can actually shift things. And it's not a complicated one. It's a really simple way to literally flip switches on in your body, sending little messages to the little cells, gazillions of cells in your body, to literally just wake up and start doing what they were meant to do, increasing the good guys and decreasing the bad guys. And we all know good wins over evil, right? So and you're living proof. You're living proof of that. So I just want to honor you for being really real and really vulnerable and coming on today just to share with people that this is not something that's a quick fix, but this is something that's happening at the cellular physiological level, and the signs clinically do appear, and the emotional and physical healing continues long past those initial little breakthroughs that you get. The longer you take it, the more healthy you get from the inside out, right? So Andrea, is there anything else you want to just kind of add to just wrap it up today?
Not off the top of my head, other than just it's being really lovely to see the positive change, because there was no sort of light at the end of the tunnel, I don't think, for Janine before this. So it's really lovely to watch the transformation of a person in such a positive way. And so much so that I now take the Nrf2 as well. And I've got my husband on the activated collagen, and I was just telling another patient today that I think you might need to give Janine a call, because you might need the Nrf2 too. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. It's hard not to want to feel good when you see somebody have such a radical transformation.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been just a real joy to get to meet you, to get to connect with you, and just to hear the other side of even the parts that Janine doesn't necessarily remember, because when you're going through something like that, when you're in the midst of trauma and illness, sometimes it's really hard to you kind of go numb, and you kind of almost want to just block it out. And so I think having you kind of go through that journey was really, I think, just helpful for people who are going to be watching this, in the future as well, so that they can really understand the gravity of the situation that she was in, and how what a massive 180 it's been for her. So Janine, is there anything else you want to wrap it up to with?
Oh, look, just the just meeting the lady who introduced me to Nrf2, I thank her for her courage to let me know that it existed, and a huge thanks to Andrea for coming on the call today and looking after me for the past 9 years, because there's an element of it, there's a friendship there that we have, and we now our sessions are about talking about horses and world problems and all this kind of stuff, and no longer about how horrible I feel, which is just nice. So Andrea, thank you.
My pleasure.
Amazing. I love that. And I love, one of the things I often say when people say, Candace, what is it that you love about what you do? And it's like, I love being able to help people get up off the sidelines and back into the life that they want to, and they were created to live. And I think you are a living testimony of that, Janine. So it's been a real honor and a pleasure to get to, spend this time with you ladies. And please make sure that you get back in touch with Janine so that she can, just help you out with your goals and your health journey as well, so that you can, feel good. Today is not how today needs to end. It's there's a bright future waiting for all of us. So thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.